My name is Callie Winslow, and I'm 30 years old. 3 days before my wedding, my dad called. It was a Tuesday. I was in my workshop potting up dahlia tubers for the reception centerpieces. Soil under my nails. Playlist on low, and the caller ID said Dad. So I picked up with my elbow because my hands were wet. 6 words. That is all it took. I'm not walking you down the aisle. I set the trowel on the counter, wiped my hands on my jeans, said nothing for maybe 5 seconds, which does not sound long until you are the one counting. Bridget says it would upset her. He said, my sister. Bridget, 3 years older, married, 2 kids, and apparently still the center of every decision my parents make, even mine. Your sister is going through a rough time, Callie. Her marriage? You know, I did know, but this was my wedding, not hers. 10 minutes later, my mom called to finish the job. Go solo. Stop making drama. Lots of modern brides walk alone. She said it like she was reading a brochure. 48 hours later, 200 people would turn around when those barn doors opened, and the man holding my arm would not be my father. Welcome back to the channel. This is a place where we share real stories about family, boundaries, and the people who show up when it matters most. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. I grew up in Thornfield, New Hampshire. White clapboard houses, leaf blowers on Saturdays, the kind of town where everyone knows your mailbox but not your middle name. Bridget was the bright one. Straight A's, debate team captain, piano recitals where my parents sat front row with the camera. My dad introduced her at neighborhood cookouts the same way every time. This is Bridget. She is going to be a lawyer. He said it like it had already happened. I was the one who came home with dirt on my knees. I built a greenhouse in the backyard when I was 14. Scrap wood from a neighbor's renovation. Plastic sheeting from the hardware store. A hinge I pulled off an old cabinet. It stood 7 feet tall and it was not pretty, but it grew tomatoes the size of my fist by August. That year, my school's science fair fell on the same Saturday as Bridget's regional debate tournament. I entered my greenhouse tomatoes, heirloom seeds, controlled soil pH, a growth journal with daily photos. I won first place. Blue ribbon pinned to my poster board by the time my dad walked in. He walked in 40 minutes late. The judges were already stacking chairs. Sorry, kiddo. Bridget's event ran long. He glanced at the ribbon, nodded, said, "Good job." The way you say it to a stranger's kid at a checkout line. Then he checked his phone. That greenhouse stayed in the backyard for 9 years. I repaired the hinge twice, replaced the sheeting once. My mom called it an eyesore. My dad called it nothing. He never mentioned it again, but it kept growing tomatoes every summer, whether anyone noticed or not. My high school graduation was on a Thursday in June. That same week, Bridget got her acceptance letter to Georgetown's law program. My parents decided to combine the celebrations into one dinner at a steakhouse downtown. 3 speeches were given. All 3 were about Bridget. My dad raised his glass to our Georgetown girl. My mom wiped her eyes and said she always knew. Bridget thanked them for believing in her. I ate my potatoes and clapped in the right places. No one mentioned my diploma. I had graduated with a 3.7 GPA and an acceptance to the University of Vermont's horticulture program. I paid my own application fee from the landscaping jobs I had been running since sophomore year. Mowing, weeding, planting beds for 6 neighbors at $40 each. When I told my mom about the horticulture degree, she set her coffee mug down and looked at me like I had said something in another language. That is not a real career, Callie. 5 words. She said them once to my face and apparently many more times behind my back. Pearl Loomis, our neighbor 3 doors down, and my grandmother Vivian's closest friend, told me years later that she had overheard my mom on the phone with her sister saying the same thing. Callie's studying gardening. I do not even know what to tell people. Bridget's law school tuition was paid in full by my parents, $24,000 a year. I know the number because Elaine, my mom, mentioned it at Thanksgiving like it was a public service announcement. My tuition, I paid myself. Landscaping in the summers. Greenhouse work on campus during the school year. Student loans for the rest. Nobody announced my balance at the dinner table. Bridget married Colin Calloway 3 years after law school. Investment banking. Charcoal suit at the rehearsal dinner. Cufflinks that cost more than my truck payment. My parents glowed at the wedding like they had personally arranged the stock market. Then the grandchildren came. Hazel first, now 5. Miles 2 years later, now 3. My dad retired from his insurance agency the same year Miles was born, and those 2 kids became the center of his universe. He drove to Bridget's house in Manchester 3 times a week. He built Hazel a swing set. He read Miles the same train book 47 times because Miles screamed if he stopped. Bridget noticed. She noticed the way you notice a lever you can pull. The first time she used the kids was over Christmas seating. Bridget wanted the head of the table. My dad gave it to her. The second time was about a family photo. Bridget wanted it retaken without me in the background. My dad asked me to step aside. The third time, I heard it myself. Speakerphone. My dad did not realize I was in the kitchen. If you walk her, I will not bring the kids to Christmas. My dad paused. I could hear his breathing through the phone. Then Bridget's voice, calm and practiced. I mean it, Dad. It is too much for me right now. You know what I'm going through? My dad said, Okay, B. Okay. My mom walked into the kitchen 30 seconds later, saw my face. She knew I had heard. Her response was not an apology. She is their mother, Grant. Do not push her. That was the hierarchy. Bridget, then the grandchildren, then my parents' comfort, then somewhere below the property taxes, me. I met Theo Langley on a Tuesday in April 3 years ago. I was planting a rain garden for the county drainage project along Route 9. He was the structural engineer building the culvert bridge 60 yards upstream. We both showed up at 6:30 in the morning. We both drank black coffee from thermoses. He saw me hauling a root ball out of my truck bed and walked over without being asked. Need a hand. I have got it. I know, but my coffee is done, and I'm bored. That was the first sentence Theo ever said to me that was not about drainage grades. Our first date was a nursery tour, and then tacos from a truck in the parking lot. He had dirt on his boots. I had dirt on mine. It was the most natural evening of my life. He introduced me to his dad 2 weeks later. Gordon Langley, 64, retired carpenter, hands like leather gloves someone left in the sun too long. He lived alone in the same house he had built with Theo's mom, who had died of ovarian cancer 8 years earlier. There was a workshop in the back with sawdust on every surface and a radio tuned to a classic rock station he never seemed to turn off. Gordon called me kiddo by week 3. By month 2, he had built me a bookshelf for my workshop. White oak, sanded smooth, dovetailed joints. He carved my initials on the inside of the left panel. CW. Small enough you would miss it unless you knew where to look. I run my fingers over those letters every morning when I open the shop. You got dirt under your nails. He said the first time he visited my greenhouse. Good means you built something today. Nobody in my family had ever said that to me. Theo proposed in the botanical garden I designed for the Thornfield Public Library. It was an October evening, and the Japanese maples were turning that deep burgundy that makes people stop their cars. He got down on one knee next to the stone bench I had set into the path 2 summers earlier. I said yes before he finished the question. That night, I called my parents. My dad picked up on the 4th ring. I told him. There was silence for about 3 seconds. Then, congratulations. Not, I'm happy for you. Not, tell me everything. Just the word you say when a coworker announces their promotion. My mom took the phone. Is he from a good family? She did not ask if I was happy. She did not ask about the ring or the garden or the evening. She asked about his family the way she might ask about his credit score. He is, I said. His dad is a carpenter. Silence again, the kind where someone is choosing not to say what they are thinking. I sent the wedding invitation by hand. I designed it myself. Botanical illustrations along the border. Pressed fern on the inside flap. I drove it to their house and left it in the mailbox because I did not want to watch them open it. I also asked my dad to walk me down the aisle. He said yes, quickly, almost reflexively, like someone agreeing to hold a door. Theo said what he always says when I give my parents a chance they have not earned. He put his hand on my knee and looked at me with those steady brown eyes. You know who they are, Cal? I know, but I want to give them one more chance. He nodded. He never tells me what to do with my family. He just makes sure I have somewhere soft to land afterward. The call came on a Tuesday evening, 3 days before the wedding. I was in the workshop potting the last dahlias for the centerpieces, 14 arrangements, each one hand-tied. The radio was playing something with a fiddle, and I was humming along when the phone lit up on the workbench. Dad? I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up. Callie, I need to tell you something. His voice was the one he used when he was about to deliver bad news to a client. Steady but detached professional avoidance. I'm not going to walk you down the aisle. The trowel was still in my other hand. I set it down slowly, the way you set something down when you're not sure you can hold it without breaking it. Bridget says it would upset her. Dad, Bridget's not getting married. I am. She says seeing me give you away would be too painful right now. Her marriage is going through a rough patch. You know that. So my wedding day is about her feelings. Silence, long. I could hear the TV in his den. Some game show. I'm sorry, Callie. I did not yell. I did not cry. I asked him one question, the only one that mattered. Did Bridget threaten you with the kids again? More silence. Then his voice dropped lower, as if someone might hear. She said if I walked you, she would not bring Hazel and Miles to Christmas. There it was. The lever, the same lever she had been pulling for years, and he had been folding to every single time. His grandchildren traded for his daughter's wedding day, and he chose the trade without blinking. Okay, Dad. Callie, please understand. I said okay. I hung up, set the phone on the workbench, picked up the trowel, finished the 14th arrangement. My hands did not shake. I wanted them to. Shaking would have meant I was surprised. I was not surprised. I was just finally done pretending I might be. My mom called 10 minutes later, right on schedule. Elaine Winslow does not leave loose ends. Your father told you? Yes. Callie, do not make this bigger than it is. Go so. Lots of modern brides walk alone. It is actually quite empowering if you think about it. She said empowering the way someone says organic when they do not buy organic. Mom, I asked Dad a year ago. He said yes. Things change. Your sister is hurting, and pause. I heard her take a breath. The measured kind, the kind she uses before she says something she has already decided, is reasonable. You have Theo. Bridget has no one right now. I almost laughed, because the math of it was so perfectly Elaine. Bridget's pain outweighed mine, because Bridget's pain always outweighed mine. Not because it was larger, because it was hers. Stop making drama, Callie. This is not the hill. I hung up, walked out to the porch, sat on the top step. The October air was cold enough to see my breath, but not cold enough to go inside. I held my phone in both hands and stared at the garden I had planted when I moved into this house 4 years ago. Hydrangeas along the fence, lavender by the walkway, a dogwood I had put in the first spring that was now taller than me. Theo found me 20 minutes later. No tears, just sitting, holding the phone like it was something I was not sure I wanted to keep. He sat down next to me, did not ask what happened, did not say I told you so. Just put his arm around my shoulder and waited. After a while, I stood up, walked through the workshop, stopped at the oak bookshelf Gordon built me, ran my fingers along the inside panel, found the carved letters, CW traced them twice, then went to bed. Wednesday morning, 2 days before the wedding. Theo made eggs, scrambled the way I like them, with chives from the windowsill pot he keeps alive for me, because I somehow managed to overwater indoor plants while running a professional landscape business. He set the plate down, sat across from me, waited. My dad's not walking me. I heard you on the phone. He poured coffee. What do you want to do? Not, I will fix this. Not, let me call them. Just, what do you want to do? That is Theo. He does not rescue. He stands next to you and hands you the thing you need. I do not want to walk alone. Then you will not. He took a sip, set the mug down, looked at me the way he looks at a structural drawing, calm, focused, already 3 steps ahead. Dad's been practicing his tie knot since the engagement. I watched him YouTube it twice last Sunday. I smiled. First one in 12 hours. I cannot ask Gordon to do that. It is too much. Cal, that man built you a bookshelf he did not have to build. He drives 40 minutes to your shop on Saturdays to fix hinges you did not ask him to fix. He set a place for you at Sunday dinner, 2 months after we started dating, and has not removed it since. I stared at my eggs. He has been waiting, Theo said. He just did not want to overstep. The thought of it made something crack open in my chest. Not pain, something warmer. The realization that the person I needed had been there for 3 years, sanding wood in his garage, calling me kiddo, showing up for every single thing my own father had skipped. Okay, I said, I will ask him today. Maddie called an hour later. My best friend, maid of honor, the kind of woman who tells you your hair looks terrible before a date and then fixes it in 90 seconds. She had run into Bridget at the salon in Manchester that morning. Same colorist, apparently. Small towns have long arms. Your sister was there, Maddie said, and she was not subtle. What did she say? She was telling the colorist about your wedding, how stressful it is, how it is making everything about Kali again. I closed my eyes. Again, her word, she said, and I'm quoting, Kali always gets the attention now. Ever since she started that garden business, it is like the rest of us do not exist. I almost dropped the phone. Kali always gets the attention. Me, the one who won a science fair to an empty chair. The one whose graduation dinner became a Georgetown acceptance party. The one whose career was publicly labeled not real by her own mother. She also said, and I wish I were making this up, her little garden business is not even real work. There it was, the same sentence. Elaine's words in Bridget's mouth passed down like a family recipe nobody asked for. Maddie's voice softened. She is not upset about the wedding, Cal. She is jealous. You have Theo. You have your business. You have a life that does not need her to validate it, and she cannot stand it. I sat with that for a minute. Maddie is right about most things, and she was right about this. Bridget did not want my dad to walk me because it would hurt her. She wanted him to stay home because my happiness was something she could not control, and controlling the aisle walk was the closest she could get. I should tell you about Thanksgiving. Last November, Bridget hosted because Elaine insisted. Your sister has the bigger dining room. This was technically true. It was also beside the point. Colin sat at the head of the table in a shirt that probably cost what I charge for a full garden install. He checked his phone 11 times during the meal. I counted because I was seated directly across from him, and there was nothing else to look at while Elaine talked about Bridget's kitchen renovation. Bridget was loud that night. Not the normal loud, the loud where you're trying to fill a room so nobody hears the silence underneath. She laughed at things that were not funny. She refilled glasses that were still half full. She touched Colin's arm twice, and he did not react either time. Then Hazel said it. She was 5. She had mashed potatoes on her chin, and she said it the way 5-year-olds say everything, clearly and without knowing what it means. Why does Daddy sleep in the office? The table went quiet. Colin looked up from his phone. Bridget's face did something I had never seen before. It folded. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Something underneath both of those. My dad cleared his throat and asked Miles if he wanted more bread, but I saw Bridget's hands. They shook when she poured the wine. Small tremor, 2 seconds. Then she straightened up, smiled, and passed the cranberry sauce like nothing had happened. I understood something that night. Bridget's marriage was not going through a rough patch. It was going through the floor, and instead of dealing with it, she was rearranging the furniture on top of the cracks. My wedding was just the latest piece of furniture she needed to move. Wednesday morning, 2 days before the wedding, I drove to Gordon's house. He lives on a dead-end road off Route 4 in a town called Milford. The house is brown-shingled, single-story, with a porch he rebuilt in 2019 and a garage that smells like linseed oil and cedar. The radio in his workshop plays classic rock at a volume that suggests he believes Led Zeppelin should be experienced as a background presence in all human activities. He was sanding a rocking chair when I pulled in. Teak, beautiful grain. He was in his work apron, the one with sawdust permanently embedded in the fabric like a second texture. I stood at the garage door for a full 10 seconds before he looked up. "Hey, kiddo," he blew dust off the armrest. "Coffee is on inside." Gordon, he must have heard something in my voice, because he set the sandpaper down immediately, turned to face me, wiped his hands on the apron. My dad backed out of walking me down the aisle. He did not say, "I'm sorry." He did not ask why. He did not shake his head or offer an opinion about my father or my family or the situation. He just looked at me with those steady gray eyes, the same eyes Theo has, and said 5 words. "When do you need me?" That is the sentence. That is the whole thing. No hesitation. "No, are you sure? No, let me think about it." The man was sanding a chair, and the next breath he took was offering to walk me into my future like it was already on his calendar. Saturday, 1 o'clock. I will be there at noon. He picked up the sandpaper, started sanding again. Then, quieter. "Kiddo, I have been waiting for someone to ask." I cried in the car on the way home, first time all week. The next 48 hours moved like a current. Maddie handled logistics with the calm efficiency of someone who has planned 3 baby showers and once organized a surprise birthday party during a blizzard. She updated the seating chart. The father of the bride's seat at the head table was reassigned. Front row, center aisle, now labeled Gordon Langley, the seat my dad was supposed to fill. Theo took his dad suit shopping Thursday after work. Gordon had a sport coat from 2011 that he swore still fit. Theo sent me a photo from the fitting room, Gordon in a new charcoal suit, looking simultaneously proud and uncomfortable, his rough hands sticking out of the pressed cuffs like they did not belong to the same outfit. Theo texted underneath the photo. He asked me 3 times if the tie was straight. I wrote my vows that evening in the workshop. The oak bookshelf was to my left. Gordon's initials project to my right, a cutting board he had started for our wedding gift and thought I did not know about. I wrote by hand on the back of a landscape sketch, crossed out lines, rewrote them, settled on something simple. My parents did not call Wednesday, did not call Thursday, did not text. I checked my phone twice Thursday night and then put it in the kitchen drawer. Theo noticed he did not say anything. He just made tea and left a mug on my nightstand. I did not tell my parents about Gordon. They assumed I would walk alone. Let them assume. The doors would open Saturday and the answer would be standing right next to me. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the wedding, I was reorganizing the centerpieces in the workshop when there was a knock at the front door. Pearl Loomis, 68 years old, silver hair, always pulled back. She lived 3 houses down from my parents and had been my grandmother Vivian's closest friend for 40 years. When Vivian died 11 years ago, Pearl was the one who sat with her at the end. She was also the one who told me about Elaine calling my career gardening behind my back. Pearl stood on my porch holding a yellowed envelope. "Your grandmother asked me to give you this," she said. "The week before she passed, she told me to hold it until you were getting married." Pearl's eyes were damp. "I have been carrying it for 11 years, Callie. I was beginning to think it would outlast me." The envelope was soft at the edges. My grandmother's handwriting on the front. Just my name, Callie. I opened it at the kitchen table. Pearl sat across from me and did not speak. The letter was short. 12 sentences. Vivian had always been efficient with words. "Callie, when you read this, you're about to walk into the most important room of your life. I wish I could be there. I wish I could tell your mother to sit down and let you shine. I wish I could tell your father to look up from whatever is distracting him and see you. But I know how that family works. So let me say what they will not. You have always been the one who builds. From that greenhouse to whatever you're building now, you make things grow where nothing was. Do not wait for them to see it. The people who show up are your real family. I love you. Build something beautiful." I read it 3 times, folded it carefully, placed it in the clutch bag I would carry on Saturday. Family is who shows up. Thursday night passed without a call. Friday, the same. No text, no voicemail, no last-minute change of heart from Grant or Elaine. Friday evening was the rehearsal dinner. Gordon drove 40 minutes from Milford. He arrived 20 minutes early and helped the caterer move tables because he saw them struggling and could not watch someone carry a folding table incorrectly. 30 guests, all from Theo's side. My college roommate Rachel, 2 women from the greenhouse workshop group I run on Saturday mornings for local moms, Pearl, Maddie, of course, and nobody from my family. The barn venue looked beautiful. Open sides, string lights, wildflower arrangements I had designed and grown myself. Lavender and Queen Anne's lace and late-season dahlias in copper vases I had found at an estate sale in Peterborough. Gordon stood up for the toast. He held his glass the way he holds a chisel, firmly, like he means it. "I'm not a man of many words. Ask Theo, he will confirm." Light laughter. "But I will say this. 3 years ago, a woman showed up at my son's job site and hauled a root ball out of a truck like it owed her money. I liked her immediately." He paused, looked at me. "I never got a daughter. God just made me wait a little longer." The room went quiet. Maddie pressed a napkin to her eyes. Theo put his hand on my knee under the table. Gordon raised his glass. "To Callie, who makes things grow." I looked at his wrist, sawdust, just a trace, caught in the fold of his cuff. He had come straight from the workshop. He always came straight from the workshop. That was Friday. Saturday was the wedding. That same Friday evening, 40 minutes south, my father sat in his garage. I did not know this at the time. Maddie told me weeks later. She had a friend in Thornfield who saw Grant at the gas station near his house, and they exchanged a few words. The friend said he looked like a man carrying something too heavy to put down and too painful to hold. He sat in the garage where he used to park his sedan, on a folding chair, looking at the wall. There was a photo on the pegboard, me at 12, holding a tomato from the greenhouse, grinning like I had invented sunlight. He had hung that photo years ago and apparently never taken it down, even though the greenhouse was gone. Elaine had made him dismantle it when I left for college. It is an eyesore, Grant. Elaine came out to the garage at 9. "Are we going tomorrow?" Grant looked at her. "I think we should." "Fine, but we sit in the back. I'm not going to let Callie turn this into some kind of statement." Grant nodded. He opened his phone, typed a message to me. "I'm proud of you, Callie." He stared at the screen for a long time. Read it back, then deleted every word, locked the phone and went inside. I did not know about the message until much later. But I think about it sometimes, not with sadness. More with a kind of tired understanding. My father is not a cruel man. He is a weak one. And weakness, when it sits in the same house as control, becomes cruelty by default. He went to bed without sending anything. Friday evening, 9:45, my phone buzzed. "Bridget, I heard you are not walking alone. Who is walking you?" I looked at the screen, put the phone face down, did not reply. 11 minutes later, Maddie forwarded me a screenshot. Bridget had texted her, "Do you know who is walking Callie tomorrow?" She will not answer me. Maddie's response was a single period. Nothing else. I loved her for that. Bridget called my dad next. I know because Grant texted Theo, not me. Theo, at 10:15, Theo showed me the message. "Bridget is upset. She thinks Callie is bringing someone to walk her to embarrass us. Maybe we should not go." Theo typed a response and then deleted it. Typed another one. Deleted that too. Then he set the phone down and looked at me. "Your dad just asked if we are trying to embarrass them. At my own wedding." That is what he said. I took a breath, held it, let it go. Elaine called Grant back. I found this out later from Pearl, who had contacts I will never fully understand. Elaine told Grant they were going. I will not give her the satisfaction of saying we were not there. Classic Elaine attendance, as a strategic position, not an act of love. Then Bridget's final text of the night to my dad, forwarded later by the same Pearl network. "If you're going, then I am coming too." So that was the setup. Saturday morning, a wedding, 200 guests, a carpenter in a charcoal suit, and 3 uninvited spectators in the back row who still thought the day was about them. Saturday. I woke at 5:15. The house was dark. Theo had slept at Gordon's. Tradition, he said, though I suspect it was mostly so Gordon would not pace the kitchen alone all night. I made coffee, sat on the porch. The garden was still in that early morning fog where everything looks like a watercolor someone left out in the rain. The hydrangeas along the fence were fading. Late October does that. But the lavender still held. Lavender always holds longer than you expect. My phone had 2 messages. Gordon, ready when you are? Kiddo, tie is straight. I checked 4 times. Theo, see you at the end of the aisle. I will be the one who cannot stop smiling. I looked at my hands, calluses on the pads below my index fingers from years of pruning shears. A thin scar on my left thumb from a greenhouse repair gone wrong when I was 17. Soil under the nail of my right ring finger that I must have missed in the shower. These hands built a greenhouse at 14. They planted lavender and hydrangea. They dug beds for 6 neighbors at $40 each. They signed a business license, shook hands with clients, arranged 14 centerpieces for a wedding that my own parents could not be bothered to attend with grace. I finished my coffee, washed the mug, showered, dried my hair, pinned it up with the pearl hairpin Pearl had given me along with Vivian's letter. It had been my grandmother's. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw exactly what I expected. Not a victim, not a broken daughter, just a woman with dirt-stained hands and a clear plan for the day. I picked up the clutch bag with Vivian's letter inside, drove to the venue. The venue was a converted barn on a hill outside Thornfield. Open sides, cedar beams, the kind of place that looks like it has been hosting weddings for a century, but was actually a dairy barn until 2016. I had done the flowers myself. Every arrangement, wildflower bundles in copper vases, lavender, Queen Anne's lace, late dahlias, sprigs of rosemary. Because my grandmother always said rosemary was for remembrance. The altar was framed with climbing clematis. I had trained on a wooden trellis Theo built. It smelled like earth and October. Maddie was already in the bridal suite when I arrived. She had my makeup kit open and a mimosa in hand. You look like a woman who has been awake since 5:15. Close enough. Sit down. She worked quickly. Foundation, blush, a lip color she called Quiet Power that I'm fairly certain she made up on the spot. Pearl arrived at 10 with a small velvet box. Inside, a pair of pearl drop earrings. Your grandmother's, Pearl said. She wore these to her own wedding in 1974. Something borrowed, something old, both in one. I held them in my palm. They were warm, as if someone had just taken them off. Rachel and my 2 college friends arrived next, the 5 of us in the bridal suite, Maddie fixing my hair, Pearl sitting in the corner with her hands in her lap, like a woman who had been waiting 11 years for exactly this morning. No mother, no sister. Maddie caught me glancing at the door once. Stop looking at that door, Cal. Everyone who matters is already in this room. She was not wrong, but it still stung. The way an old bruise stings when you bump it on something you thought you had moved out of the way. A knock at the door? 10:45. Maddie opened it. Gordon stood in the doorway in his new charcoal suit, white shirt, navy tie Theo had picked out. His hands hung at his sides, still rough, still scarred from decades of wood and nails and things built for other people. He saw me in my dress and stopped. For a man who spends his life measuring cuts to the 16th of an inch, Gordon is remarkably imprecise with his emotions. His eyes filled immediately, his jaw tightened. He blinked twice, hard, and then said, "Oh, kiddo, do not cry, Gordon. I just got my mascara on. I'm not crying. Sawdust gets everywhere." Maddie laughed from across the room. Pearl smiled. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. Walnut, hand-finished. Inside was a boutonniere, dried oak leaves, baby's breath, wrapped in twine. Made it this morning, figured flowers from a store would not feel right for you. I pinned it to his lapel. The oak leaves were from his workshop. Same white oak as the bookshelf, same wood that had been part of my life for 3 years, built into the walls of my daily routine. "You look beautiful," he said. Then he corrected himself. No, you look strong. Nobody had ever said that to me on a day when I was supposed to look beautiful, and it was exactly the right word. He took a seat in the corner next to Pearl. The two of them sat there quietly, a 64-year-old carpenter and a 68-year-old retired teacher, like the most unlikely security detail in wedding history, waiting for the doors to open. At noon, I peeked through the curtain at the side of the barn. Theo's side was full. Aunts, uncles, cousins, friends from his engineering firm. His cousin brought a toddler who was already asleep. His college roommate was adjusting a bow tie that looked borrowed. My side was smaller but not empty. Pearl's seat was reserved up front. Rachel and the college girls were there. 7 women from my greenhouse workshop, the Saturday morning group where I teach local moms how to start vegetable gardens. 3 landscaping clients who had become friends over the years. My accountant Denise, who once told me my quarterly taxes made her proud. And then I saw the back row. Far right, 3 figures, Grant in a dark suit, looking at his shoes, Elaine sitting rigid with her purse on her lap like a shield, and Bridget in a dress that was slightly too formal for an outdoor barn wedding, scanning the room with the expression of someone cataloging exits. They came. My stomach dropped. Not because I was afraid. Because for one second, one stupid reflexive second, my heart said, maybe they are here to make it right. Then I watched Elaine lean over and whisper something to Grant, and he nodded without looking up, and I knew they were not here for me. They were here so they could say they were here. Attendance as alibi. I let the curtain fall, turned back to the room. Maddie was adjusting her bouquet. Gordon was brushing something off his sleeve. Pearl was reading Vivian's letter one more time. I had shown it to her that morning, and she had cried quietly for 3 minutes. The coordinator stepped in. 15 minutes. The music started at 1 sharp. A string quartet Theo had found through a friend. They played something soft and ascending. I do not know the name, but it sounded like sunlight moving through trees. The bridesmaids walked first. Rachel, then Sarah, then Maddie last. Maddie paused at the door and looked back at me. Winked. Then she stepped through and the aisle swallowed her in white light. Silence. The brief, held breath kind, where 200 people go still at once, and the only sound is the wind through the open sides of the barn. The coordinator touched my arm. Ready? I opened the clutch bag, took out Vivian's letter, read one line, the last one. The people who show up are your real family. I folded it, put it back, closed the clasp. Gordon stepped beside me. He offered his arm. His sleeve was crisp, but his hand was the same. Rough, warm, calloused from 40 years of building things for people he loved. I placed my hand on his forearm and felt the steadiness of a man who does not shake. You good? He asked. I'm good. Then let us go show them what showing up looks like. The barn doors swung open, light flooded in. October sun, low and gold, catching the dust motes in the air like someone had scattered glitter by hand. 200 heads turned. And there we were, Gordon Langley and Callie Winslow, a carpenter and a gardener. Neither one of us related by blood, both of us exactly where we were supposed to be. I felt his hand cover mine on his arm. Steady, warm, the rough grain of decades of work pressed against my skin. He took the first step, and I matched it. We walked. I did not look at the back row. I did not need to. I looked straight ahead where Theo stood at the end of the aisle with wet eyes and a grin that said everything his words would say later. This was my wedding day, and I was not walking alone. The doors were open. 200 people saw, and the man holding my arm was not my father by blood. He was my father by choice. If you have ever found family outside of blood, someone who showed up when the people who should have did not, hit subscribe and stay with me, because what happened next is a moment I will carry forever. The aisle was 60 feet long. I know because I measured it myself during the venue walkthrough in August. 60 feet of reclaimed oak planks. The irony of walking on oak toward a future given to me by a man who built with it was not lost on me, though I did not think about it at the time. At the time, I was counting Gordon's steps. Left, right, left, slow and steady. The same rhythm he uses when he planes a board. Measured, intentional. The kind of pace that says, I have done this before in my bones, even if I have not. The gasps started about 10 steps in. Not loud, just the small involuntary sounds people make when they are putting together a story in real time. Guess who knew? Maddie's friends, the greenhouse workshop moms. Denise, my accountant, smiled and pressed tissues to their eyes. Guests who did not know looked at Gordon and then scanned the room for someone who looked like a father of the bride, and found a man in the back row who would not meet anyone's eyes. I did not look at Grant. I want to be clear about that. I did not turn my head, did not search for his face, did not give him the satisfaction of a glance or the cruelty of a pointed one. I looked at Pearl, who was dabbing her eyes in the front row at Maddie, standing at the altar, hand over her mouth, at the greenhouse workshop moms, 3 of whom were openly weeping. Then I looked at Theo. He stood at the end of the aisle, hands at his sides, eyes full. He nodded once at Gordon. Not a greeting, but a thank you. The kind of nod men exchange when words would take too long. In the back row, I'm told, Grant half stood, caught himself on the pew, sat back down. Elaine grabbed his arm. Bridget stared straight ahead with an expression Pearl later described as a woman watching a door close that she cannot reopen. We reached the altar. The officiant smiled. She was a woman named Reverend Alcott, short, gray-haired, the kind of voice that makes you feel like everything will be fine even when it will not. Who gives this woman in marriage? Gordon cleared his throat. He is not a man who speaks to crowds. He builds for them, fixes things for them, feeds them Sunday roast, and sends them home with leftovers. But he does not address them. Today he did. Her family does. A pause, then quieter, like he was saying it to me rather than the room. All of us who showed up. The room exhaled. I heard a soft sob from the front row. Pearl? Maddie's mascara was already done. Denise was using her program as a fan and a tissue simultaneously. Gordon turned to me, took both my hands, squeezed once. His grip was the same grip that shaped the bookshelf, the cutting board, the boutonniere. The same hands. Go get married, kiddo. He placed my hand in Theo's, stepped back, walked to the front row, center aisle, sat in the seat that had been labeled with his name that morning, the seat my father was supposed to fill. Theo leaned in and mouthed 2 words to his dad, "Thank you." Gordon nodded, folded his hands in his lap. I noticed sawdust on his right cuff. He always had sawdust on his right cuff. I turned to Theo. The ceremony began. When it came time for vows, I said what I had written in the workshop 2 nights earlier, next to the oak bookshelf on the back of a landscape sketch. I choose you. And I choose the family we build, not the one we were given, the one we make with our hands every day, from the ground up. Theo said his vows. I do not remember the words. I remember his eyes. We were married at 1:27 in the afternoon. The reception started at 2. Same barn, tables rearranged, string lights on. The band played something acoustic and warm. People danced. Miles, Bridget's 3-year-old, ran between tables chasing a balloon that had escaped its anchor. Hazel sat on Grant's lap and asked for cake. At 3, Gordon stood up for his toast. The room quieted the way rooms do, when they can feel something real about to happen. I'm going to keep this short, because Theo told me if I talked for more than 2 minutes, he would play me off with a trombone. Laughter. I do not own a trombone, so I believe him. He held his glass. The first time Callie came to my house for Sunday dinner, I had a fern on the windowsill. It was dying, had been dying for a year. I had given up on it. She walked in, looked at it, and within 10 minutes she had repotted it, moved it to a different window, and told me I was overwatering. He looked at me. I knew then, any woman who saves a dying plant without being asked is also the kind of woman who will save a dying old man from eating alone every Sunday. Silence. Then the room broke open. Applause, tears. Maddie stood up and clapped until her palms were red. People started talking after the toast, not to me directly, but around me. The way you talk at events when you want the person to overhear. She designed the garden at Thornfield Library. You know, her company does the courthouse grounds. Have you seen them in spring? She runs a free workshop for moms every Saturday. My work speaking for itself, in a room full of people who came because they chose to, while my own family sat at a corner table and said nothing. Grant found me at the dessert table. I was cutting into the lemon cake, my choice, not Elaine's, when I felt someone step too close on my left side. I knew it was him before I turned. He smelled like the same aftershave he has worn since I was 7. Callie, I turned. He was holding a glass of water. Not champagne, water. His eyes were red at the edges and his jaw was doing the thing it does when he is trying not to say something that might come out wrong. That man, he did a good job. His name is Gordon. Gordon. Yes, he did a good job up there. He did. Silence. Grant looked at the cake, at the table, at anything that was not my face. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I looked at him, not with anger, not with forgiveness, just the flat, clear gaze of someone who has spent 30 years watching a man choose the path of least resistance. Sorry that you missed it? Or sorry that everyone saw? He flinched. Small. The kind of flinch that only happens when someone says out loud what you have been thinking for 3 days. Before he could answer, Elaine appeared, hand on his elbow, guiding him away the way she always guides him, firmly like steering a cart. Grant, come sit down. She leaned toward me as she turned him away. Voice low, controlled, the same tone she used on the phone Tuesday night. Do not make a scene, Callie. I picked up the cake knife, set a slice on a plate. I am not the one making scenes, Mom. I am cutting cake. She walked away. Grant followed. He always follows. The father-daughter dance was at 4, except it was not a father-daughter dance. It was Gordon and me on a barn floor under string lights, to a song Theo picked. An acoustic cover of Lean on Me that made Maddie cry for the 3rd time. Gordon danced the way he builds, carefully, with attention to where his feet were going. He held my hand in his and kept his other hand on my shoulder, not my waist, because Gordon is the kind of man who respects a boundary, even at a wedding. I step on feet, he warned. I know. Theo told me. That boy has no loyalty. I laughed. The room laughed, 200 people watching a carpenter dance with a gardener and feeling something true underneath the music. At the corner table, Bridget watched. Colin was not there. He had a work trip. Or that is what she told Elaine. The chair next to her was empty, and she was gripping a champagne flute like it owed her something. Pearl walked over and sat down beside Bridget. Not hostile, not warm, just present. The way Pearl does everything. Vivian would have been so proud of Callie today, Pearl said. Bridget looked at her. She would have been proud of both of you, Bridget. If you had let her, Bridget's eyes filled. She set the glass down, stood, walked to the bathroom. She was in there for 15 minutes. When she came out, her makeup was freshly applied, but her eyes were swollen, and her hands were still shaking the way they had shaken at Thanksgiving. I saw her cross the room from the dance floor. I did not go to her. I did not send someone after her. I kept dancing with Gordon. Some doors closed because you shut them. Others closed because the person on the other side stopped holding them open. I did not see my parents leave. Maddie told me later they slipped out around 5, between the cake cutting and the bouquet toss. The way you leave a party, you were never really at. The drive home for Grant and Elaine was 40 minutes. Pearl heard from a neighbor who heard from Elaine's sister that neither of them spoke for the first 20. Then Grant said something. That man built her a bookshelf. Elaine looked at him. What? In her workshop. Oak with her initials carved inside? Elaine stared at the road. When was the last time we built her anything, Elaine? No answer. The road between Thornfield and their house runs along the reservoir. Flat water, dark trees, the kind of drive that gives you too much time to think. She did not even look at me, Grant said. When she walked down the aisle, she did not look. She was looking at Theo. She was looking at everyone except me. And he was right too. Elaine said nothing. Grant pulled into the driveway. Elaine went inside. Grant sat in the car. The garage light was still on from Friday night. The photo of 12-year-old Callie with the tomato was still on the pegboard. The greenhouse was gone. Elaine had made him take it down years ago, but the soil marks where it stood were still faintly visible in the lawn, even in the dark. Some things leave outlines even after they are removed. Grant checked his phone. No message from Callie. No message coming. The wedding was over. His daughter was married. A carpenter had done what he was supposed to do. And the seat labeled Gordon Langley at the front of the aisle was the loudest statement anyone made all day. Without saying a word, he went inside and closed the door. Monday morning, 2 days after the wedding, I opened the workshop at 7. Same as always. New order on the desk. Landscape design for the children's wing garden at Thornfield Memorial Hospital, 11,800 square feet. Sensory plants for kids in recovery. Texture gardens, things you can touch and smell and hold. Theo brought coffee at 8. Black chives on the windowsill still alive. Gordon came by at 9 with a cutting board he had been working on for weeks. Cherry wood, inlaid walnut stripe down the center. For the newlyweds, he said, as if he had not walked me down the aisle 48 hours ago, as if it was just another Saturday. I set it on the counter next to the bookshelf he built 3 years ago. Same man, same hands, same showing up without being asked. My phone buzzed at noon. One text from Grant. Can we talk? I read it. Set the phone face down on the drafting table. Opened the hospital garden plans. Started sketching the sensory path. Rosemary for memory. Lavender for calm. Mint for energy. Plants that give you something just by being near them. The greenhouse I built at 14 was 7 feet tall and grew tomatoes for one family. This one would be 11,800 square feet and grow healing for children who needed it. I picked up my pencil, drew the first line of the path, then the second, then the border beds, then the entrance arch. Outside, the October light moved through my workshop window and caught the carved letters on the inside of the bookshelf. CW small enough to miss, deep enough to last. I did not answer the text. I had work to do. 2 weeks after the wedding, Bridget called. I was on a job site, the hospital garden, measuring drainage grades when her name appeared on my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost, but something in me, some remnant of the girl who repaired the greenhouse hinge twice because she believed things could be fixed, made me answer. Callie, I'm here. Silence long enough that I checked to see if the call dropped. Colin left. I set down my measuring tape. He moved out last week, took his things while I was at the grocery store, left a note on the counter. I waited. Bridget's breathing was uneven. Not crying, trying not to cry. I just thought you should know. Okay. Another pause. Then her voice broke. Not dramatically, not the way she performs for my parents, but quietly, like a crack in a wall that has been spreading for years and finally reached the surface. I thought if I could keep Mom and Dad focused on me, it would fill the gap. Colin was not there. The kids were not enough. I needed to be the center of something, and your wedding was in the way. Your happiness was in the way. I let that sit. I did not comfort her. I did not attack her. I stood on a construction site with dirt on my boots and held the phone and listened to my sister finally say the thing she had been hiding behind manipulation for 3 years. Bridget, I hope you find what you need. I mean that. But I am not your emotional cushion anymore. I cannot be the thing you lean on while you push me down. She cried quietly. I let her. Then I said goodbye and went back to measuring. A letter arrived the following week, handwritten. My father's handwriting, small, tilted, the penmanship of a man who learned to write in a school that still used fountain pens. Not a text, not a call, a letter mailed with a stamp, postmarked Thornfield. I opened it in the workshop, alone, standing next to the bookshelf. Callie, I should have walked you down that aisle. I knew it when Bridget asked me not to, and I knew it when your mother told me it would be fine. And I knew it when I sat in the back row and watched another man do what I was supposed to do. I chose wrong. I have been choosing wrong your whole life and telling myself it was easier. It was not easier. It was just cowardly. I let your sister use those children as a wall between us. I let your mother tell me that keeping the peace was the same as being a good father. It was not. Keeping the peace meant keeping you at a distance. And I did it because I was too afraid of what would happen if I pushed back. Gordon earned what I threw away. He showed up. I did not. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not think I would forgive me either. But I want you to know that the photo of you holding that tomato is still on my wall. And I wish I had told you then what I should have said 1,000 times since. I'm proud of you, Callie. I always was. I was just too weak to say it out loud. Dad. I read it twice, folded it, placed it in the desk drawer next to Vivian's letter. 2 letters, 2 very different weights. I did not reply. I used to think family was the people you were born to, the ones who shared your blood, your name, your dinner table. I do not think that anymore. Family is the man who drives 40 minutes to your workshop on a Saturday to fix a hinge you did not ask him to fix. Family is a letter in a yellowed envelope from a woman who has been gone 11 years. Family is who shows up. That is my story. 3 days of silence, 1 letter from a grandmother, and a carpenter who said yes before I finished asking. If this reminded you that family is a choice, not an obligation, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.